welcome to another edition of A Little Perspective. This is the special delivery edition. Today, I have an amazing couple that I get to talk with who are also co-authors in our book, A Little Perspective, Special Delivery, From Pregnancy to Toddlerhood. This book covers different stories of parents of children with dwarfism. And today I have Jazmina Urriola and Manuel Cosio with me, and they're going to talk about their experiences being a part of the book, their experiences as parents of a son with achondroplasia dwarfism, and just general things. So, Jazmina, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you for having us today. Well, my name is Jazmina Urriola. I am originally from Panama, and I have lived here in Dallas, Texas since 2017, I think, right? And I am a biotechnologist, and I am also the founder of a company called Aleya. Our mission is to inspire women everywhere to live with more kindness towards themselves and toward the people around them. We offer a self-care membership for women, and we also encourage women to support minority-owned small businesses in their communities.
Okay. So thank you, Angela, for having us here. My name is Manuel Cosio. I am originally from Bolivia, from La Paz, Bolivia. I am an engineer. I'm a petroleum engineer. I ended up in the United States in 2009. I did my master's in Texas A&M, and that's where I met Jazmina in grad school. And I've been living in Dallas since 2012, and I've been working here. We got married in 2016, and we have a son, a boy, Enzo, who has achondroplasia. And our experience with him being his parents is what prompted us to participate in this book and share a little bit of our experience.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm so glad to have you guys as part of the book. I've gotten to read your chapter already, and it's so uplifting. And I love it. I can't wait for the world to read it. Jazmina, when you heard about the project, what made you decide to join and be a part of it?
Yes, when you posted about the project in the LPA parents Facebook group, I immediately contacted you. I said, tell me more. When we discovered, or we learned that we were expecting a child with dwarfism, really there were not many books or many resources that we could access and learn more about what we were heading to. So this project is beautiful because it's going to help other parents out there that are expecting a baby with dwarfism, and that could use some information about what it is to have a kid with dwarfism. What is your life as a parent, and also as an individual going to be? What is the life of your child going to be? And understand that it is not a tragedy at all. It doesn't have to be such a problem. So it's a good opportunity to educate, to raise awareness also in our community, and to educate in general.
Absolutely. That's definitely what I hope. And you immediately reached out to me, and yes. I've just so enjoyed getting to know you over the last few months. It's been such a joy. And of course, our core values align, with Aleya and the work that you do, and the work that I do as a life coach, and my focus being helping women find self-love. It's so beautiful that the universe brought us together. I absolutely love it. So Manuel, tell me what it felt like when you came to find out that Enzo was going to or had dwarfism. For females and males tend to process things a little bit differently. And so how did you feel, and what was your reaction?
Yeah, yeah, I do want to talk about that because the first couple of weeks after finding out that something wasn't quite going according to plan were actually very, very difficult for us. And if we had had something like what we're about to publish available, it really would have been a lot of completely unnecessary uh, pain, frankly, would have been avoided. So I can certainly go into that. So I think it's important first to give a little bit of context and what my experience is, and I have zero experience with people with disabilities or are different physically or have different heights or whatever. There's no one in my family who my parents on my mother's side that has a wheelchair or some sort of something different like this, and certainly nothing in the dwarfism era. Frankly, before Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones,
Yeah.
my exposure to people with dwarfism was almost nil.
Yeah.
It's just there's I think 1 in 15,000 that are born with this. So why would I be exposed to this? I plead complete ignorance in that respect, and I have seen people with dwarfism before, in a natural setting in a supermarket. When I used to teach in university in Guatemala, one of the professors had dwarfism, but all I knew is that she was really short and that she was a professor of mathematics, so very smart, and that you treat her with respect. But that's it. You never ask questions like, "Hey, what's it like?" or something like this. So zero experience. I just know that based on my observation, the intelligence level was normal, and that's what I knew in 2017. No, that's it. And then Peter Dinklage came along, and you see this actor being a badass in this really cool action series, and you say, "Oh, okay." So that was my level of ignorance, And then my son, we were told your son has skeletal dysplasia.
Yeah.
They took like the broadest possible term. And if you Google that, there's like 200 different types or something, just in the hundreds. And my experience was the doctors were very conservative, and they were always covered. But my impression, my amateur, non-expert impression, was that doctors, when they're diagnosing these things, they really cover their tracks. So they just give you the broadest possible term so that they're never wrong. So they would just say, "Oh, there's something wrong with your child, skeletal dysplasia. The femur is shorter. What is this called? The femur, the humerus is shorter, and that's it. And we can't tell you until he's born, if he's born, because he may have double genes, so he may not survive the birth. So they give you this completely conservative. We won't tell you something that's wrong, which covers a lot of very negative possibilities. And you have to live with this until he's actually born, if he's born." And so that was very, very disconcerting, the way this was presented to us. Also, I'm an engineer, my wife is a scientist. Our instinct is to Google things and to learn, and I'm going to read a peer-reviewed journal. But there's so much information that is unorganized. There is a book on Amazon that's about 500 pages on all sorts of skeletal dysplasias. And I wanted to buy that and read it and study it, but it was a grueling read, because you would see all these types of forms of dwarfism that are not as benign as achondroplasia, and you're filling your head with all of these possibilities. So I'm going. You got me going here, and I'm remembering things, but the first couple of weeks were not nice.
Yeah, no, that's all really valid. And doctors, that was really the biggest reason why I chose to start with the parents book, because doctors will scare the crap out of new parents, and well, not even necessarily just new parents, but parents, soon to be parents, and or just born parents. And it's really unfair, because I've heard so many stories like that, where the parent is given this really grim diagnosis when in the end everything was fine. And the parents spend all this time stressed out, wondering what to do, how to do it, what's the child's life going to be like. There's even been some doctors who have suggested termination, which that's an impossible decision to make when you don't know like what the child's situation is. And so the main reason I wanted to create this book is to be able to show that the grim prognosis is not valid. And so you just hold on, and here's some stories that show that things will be okay. And while there may be medical issues or what have you, things will be okay. And so don't freak out. So yeah. So how did you said the first couple of weeks were kind of intense. So how did you shift into like a more relaxed feeling about the situation with Enzo?
With time,
Yeah.
we realized that we went through a grieving grief process, which is normal because you have this expectation of what your pregnancy and your child is going to look like, and then suddenly in a matter of days, no, you have to get rid of those expectations and ideas. And we initially were confused. We didn't understand what was going on, because as Manuel said, there's no one with dwarfism in any of our families. And we were trying to understand why this happened, and also what is going to happen, because there was always this possibility that our son Enzo would not make it, and that was scary. We were confused, we were scared, we were upset, we were sad, we were everything. But then you're going through this process. You're upset, you're in denial, but then you are trying to you start like a negotiation process with life.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe he's going to have dwarfism, and that's fine. But as long as he makes it and he's alive, and it doesn't matter if he is short, that's fine. But as long as he's able to walk. I was very concerned because I couldn't get my head around of what does it mean to be a person with dwarfism, or what the doctor was describing to have a short femur length. Is he going to be able to walk, for example? I couldn't understand what Enzo's life was going to be. But as long as we continue to learn, to read online, whatever we were able to find. And we were also able to speak with a psychologist, and we were trying to gather information to educate ourselves. And we started to understand that, okay, maybe there was a chance that Enzo was going to be fine, okay, and live a relatively healthy life. We just had to wait. But a game changer for us, I think, was to visit this psychologist. It was a recommendation that my OBGYN made, and it helped us a lot because it allowed us to vent and to speak with another person besides the two of us.
Yeah.
We were not going anywhere. Just,
Yeah.
And she gave us some perspective. And the most important takeaway from that single visit was that we were going to love our child. It didn't, regardless of how Enzo was going to look like. No, we were going to love him, and that we were going to realize that when he was born. and that it was okay to feel everything we were feeling. It was just normal. It didn't mean that we were not going to love him or that we were being bad parents. So that helped us a lot to shift our mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's wonderful. I can see how that would certainly help process, and having a third party to kind of just say it's okay, and then being able to just kind of settle down with that information. Um, so there are medical complications that can come along with having dwarfism, and like y'all said, there's so many different kinds, hundreds of different kinds, and some come with certain risks and others come with others. Achondroplasia is the most common. It's the kind that I have as well, and one of those things that can happen is spinal cord compression. So tell us a little bit about the difference when Enzo had the spinal cord decompression surgery, and what difference that made for him.
I think we realized that something was off because he was using only one arm preferentially for everything. I think that was like the first realization that something was not quite right. At the time, we were going to the doctors quite often, and we went to this neurosurgeon, and then he recommended we do this. But I would say that because he was so small, 6 months old, that I couldn't really give you a clear before and after. Yeah, I don't know if that's a typical range that people get this when they need it, but I would say that he maybe started being a lot more active and using both of his arms more, but that's all I could tell you.
Yes, that adding to what you just said, the doctors, we were noticing that he was using one hand, just one hand, and they did an MRI, and they found out that his foramen magnum was narrow. So, and we know that the having a narrow foramen magnum can have some consequences later on. So in order to prevent any symptoms in the future or problems, they decided to go ahead and do the foramen magnum decompression surgery. And it went well, surprisingly. I was so scared. I was scared to death, seeing my son going into the operations room. But after the surgery, he was fine. He was just like nothing had happened. And the surgery went well. We always do some follow-up MRIs, and it seems that he's doing just fine. And after now at least we know that his foramen magnum is not that narrow anymore, so he shouldn't have any problems in the future related to that. And he started using both of his hands, and that may or not be related to the surgery, but at least we are done with that part, just as a preventive measure.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I asked that question is in case anybody is watching and they have a child with achondroplasia. That's a common thing, is that the foramen magnum is narrow and is pinching the spinal cord. My sister had that issue actually, and so I would assume that him starting to use both hands was directly related to that. Because that's one of the things, using the legs, using the arms, acting like they're in pain. And 6 months, I've heard of babies having it 6 months, but then even at 1 or 2 years, it just depends on the situation. Nowadays, when you have a child with achondroplasia, they typically do an MRI pretty quickly. I'm 39, and so back then that wasn't the case. So you kind of had to wait and see if things happen or didn't happen, so to speak, to know that you needed an MRI.
Okay.
But so it's amazing to me how resilient kids are, like that
Yeah.
woke up like from this major surgery just smiling. And it's also a testament to him. I've had the chance to see him on your social media, but also during our meetings and such. And he just looks like such a joy. He's so
Yeah.
precious.
We have that picture.
Oh yeah.
We have that picture.
Oh,
From the day of the surgery. Yeah, and so he's a happy boy. He has always been a happy baby. Now he's a happy boy. Well, he's always going to be our baby, but he's a happy boy now. And even that day after the surgery, he was in bed and he was smiling and he was laughing, and just as like nothing had happened. It was amazing.
Yeah.
that's awesome. That's so awesome. Um, so now that before you didn't have any real connections with a little person, which is completely understandable. Like you said, it's a very rare condition, and so the odds of you having a connection are pretty slim naturally. Now you obviously do have a connection, and 80% of children with achondroplasia are born to parents of average height. It's a spontaneous mutation. But have you since had much interaction in person with other LPs?
Yes, we have. So after once within the first months after Enzo was born, we joined the LPA, and we did attend to a couple of meetings organized by the local chapter, and it was, well, I'll talk for me, but I'll speak for me, but it was very nice to be able to be in the same place as other little people, and to know that there is a community where you can find support, and that there are other children that are just like Enzo. So as he grows up, he's going to be able to find support, to make friends, and to really understand that there are other kids that are going through the same experiences that he's going through. That's very important, to feel that to know that you are not alone, and that there are other people that understand you, and that there are there for you to support you and laugh with you. You are not alone. So that has been very nice. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we have not been able to participate in any in-person activities, but next weekend we're actually going to a pool party that they have, so that's going to be nice.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'd like to add to that.
Yeah.
We started making the effort of going to LPA events and meetings, and that was really good, because I'm going to be very, very, very candid. Movies and series, especially pre-Game of Thrones, anytime you saw someone with dwarfism, it was a very particular comic role. It was always like the Oompa Loompas, or the elves, or something, that, or the guy from Fantasy Island, I forget, the plane. It was always like something a little bit condescending role. So if that's all you see growing up, and you've never seen one, you don't interact with someone with dwarfism, you kind of start building up this idea that, this association with something comical and condescending. And so going to the LPA events and meeting professionals and people who lead normal lives and are just happy people that are completely normal, that sounds really silly, but at the time it was really like, wow, okay, you don't have to be an Oompa Loompa. My son can be an engineer like me, or a biotechnologist, or a PhD, or a doctor. There's no need to be a slapstick humor, And so that, you know, it's just I'm pleading complete ignorance, and you know, accepting that I had to be educated, and there's really no big deal, and it doesn't have to be this dramatic thing. It's just that realization was a huge thing.
Yes, and it was also nice to be able to talk with other parents of children with dwarfism and to learn about their stories and what their own experiences had been like, and that's nice. And also it was nice to see how people with achondroplasia get around. And I remember we were at this pool party when I think that was our first event, and looking at Enzo was an infant, but looking at all these kids get in and out of the pool, and then they were just sitting and they would stand up like without bending their knees and just like that, and they were just so happy. And then the adults, I was amazed at how they were able to get on the stools of the kitchen island. I mean, it's amazing to see how human beings can adapt.
Yeah.
They, you know, you learn. And now that Enzo is older, I can see how he climbs the stairs at home, and he does it in a different way, differently from other kids, but he does it. He has learned to adapt, and he's fine.
Yeah.
So that's been great.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine it is. So I'm fairly new to LPA. I knew it existed, but I say I discovered it in 2018. Like, I discovered how expansive it is and how, you know, just complete it is. And then in 2019 I went to my very first LPA meeting, and it was in Fort Lauderdale, and we all went down there together. And so I'm second generation. My mom's a little person, and then my girls are little. And so my girls are used to, like, they're little, I'm little, my sister was little, my mom's little, like they're used to it, like they see it. But to see them see others was really neat, because I think it's kind of like that. It's kind of like, I describe it as kind of like an out of body experience. Cause like you said, the way that you said that you see how they get around, like I felt the same way, even though I am a little person, like to see how little people get around is like, that's, you know, it's like an out of body experience. Cause I'm like, oh, that's what I look like, you know, getting out of the pool or what have you, you know? So I completely know what you mean. And it's just such a neat thing. It's such a great organization to be able to connect, and then have the kids be able to see others like them, and make those connections, and then the parents can relate, and so on and so forth. So it's really neat. I love that. That's awesome. The whole standing up thing, it always cracks me up, because people like, people will be like, what, and I'm like, it just stood up, like.
Yeah, people like, for we don't have, Manuela and we do not have a lot of experience with babies or kids. I didn't grow around any babies or kids. So the only experience that I have is what I have learned with Enzo, and Enzo stands up like, you know, like this without bending his knees. And for me, that's the norm. When other people say something like, wow, Enzo, look at that, I'm always like, what? That's isn't that normal?
Yeah. Brooke, another one of the authors, she has an only son, and he's little, and she was an only child, and so she same exact thing. She says the same exact thing, that she's like, this is my normal. So like when people make comments about different things, I'm like, what? Like B was doing the squatting thing, and I don't know if Enzo does that yet, but and so somebody made a comment like, what is he doing? Is he going to the bathroom? And she was like, what? He's 8. Why would he be going to the bathroom?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. It's are normal, but for other people we realize it's different, but it's nice when you are around other LPs because
yeah,
then you see, okay, yeah, this is
it is normal. Yeah. So tell me what are some of the more difficult things that you find in raising a son that has dwarfism?
No, I would say so far there haven't been many things that are, well, he's 2.5, so we need to, for the audience to get a context. There haven't been, I would say, that many things that have been difficult. We have to be mindful of that he doesn't fall and that he doesn't hurt himself. That's my understanding. His head is and his neck is a bit more fragile than someone who's normal height. But there's been absolutely no, I think he's too small for there to be any sort of bullying at school at this stage. The school that he goes to, the teachers are very, very good, and everybody's super nice with him. Right now, it's my impression, it's been fine, if not above average, because people know that he has dwarfism. They're kinder and make an effort, and he's cute. I'm gonna just say it, he's cuter than an average baby because his proportions are different. And so people react to that and like, oh, he's so cute. I mean, I'll have him in my stock or whatever it's called in the supermarket, and just people will like turn and, oh, look at the baby, and it's so cute.
Yeah.
They know that something's a little bit different, but they don't know what it is, but they know he's really cute. And so I wouldn't say that at this point we've experienced anything. My opinion, I don't know what you think.
No, I think that so far we have not had any major problems. I would say that when I was pregnant, what we were concerned about was how we were going to tell our families and our friends that Enzo had this genetic condition, that there was a chance that he was not going to survive. And but the psychologist we visited helped us to understand that we didn't owe that explanation to anybody at that moment, because Manuel and I had different perspectives, and personally I didn't feel ready to share that with anybody because I was still trying to understand what was going on and what the outcome was going to be. I always told Manuel that I first had to feel like in peace with the situation in order to then tell my father, for example.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand why, but that's the way I felt it had to be, or I had to do it. And one of the psychologists, I think at the Children's Hospital, explained to us that what I was trying to do was to protect my father. So I didn't want to hurt him. So I wanted to first feel well and to be able to talk with him, well, and explain him in a way that he wouldn't think, oh, there's a big problem, and he will. And so that was, for me, that was challenging. That was something I was always thinking about. How am I going to tell our friends we talk about this in the book chapter, that our friends organized a very beautiful baby shower for us. And 2 days later, we were receiving this news about, and so probably not going to be well. And I would always tell Manuel, how are we supposed to tell our friends that spend so much money in buying gifts and organizing the baby shower that probably there's not going to be any baby. How, that was my concern, but then I learned that that shouldn't be, a problem. Things were going to I would we would things would gain with sorry things would start to get solved, and we would understand, and we were going to tell friends and share the news when we felt it was the right time.
Yeah, that's true. Everything I said about things being fine and dandy are true from month 6 onwards. But from month 0 to month 6, it was a bit, it was pretty, there was some drama involved. It's true what Jazmina was saying, that one of the more difficult things was figuring out how to tell people and when. And without repeating Jazmina's words too much, but just I'll say it in my words, we tend to underestimate our friends and our family. We think we're going to be judged and like that there's going to be drama, and but it's not true. People reacted, almost everybody reacted in a surprisingly supportive and mature way. And the people that didn't, it's just they were not ready for these news. I'm not going to get into specifics, but and it's true that how to tell our parents was the most difficult decision, because in her case, it's her father, her parents' first grandchild. In my case, it's my mother's first grandchild. So the expectations, and we're not super young, so it's like the expectations.
Pressure.
We were 30,
what do you mean we're not young?
We were 30. we were 33, right? When Ansel was born. How old? Yeah. So the expectations is like, oh, Manuel's son. It's like, the prince has come to the earth, and it's like, oh, by the way, he has dwarfism. It's this. Sure. But you all build it up in your head. People love you, and they're gonna love your child no matter what. And there was a lot of unnecessary self-torture going on. In hindsight is 2020, but yeah.
Yeah, but used to add something when because that was hard at the beginning, but then when I started sharing the news with some friends, I didn't make it like it was this big news, this big thing. It was just one day I took my cell phone out, WhatsApp, hey, FYI. And so next person, FYI. That's it. It was just for your information, because Enzo he was growing up, and you can notice the difference, because also we have other friends that have babies that were born a little, around Enzo's birth date, and you can tell the difference. So there was nothing to hide, and so it's just perfect the way he is, but he is going to be shorter. I'm fine with it. I love him. I'm so proud of him, and I wouldn't want him to be any other way. So it was not, and my father, he took it very well also, and I really appreciated some friends. One of my friends, when I told her, she replied like, what are you even telling me this? Like, this is so irrelevant. I really appreciated that reaction, because it shouldn't be an issue. It shouldn't be something that we have to talk about dwarfism. It should be like any other thing.
Yeah. One family member told me, what's the big deal? It's like you're telling me he's going to be a redhead. I mean, where's the drama here?
Yeah. Exactly. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I love that. I love that comparison. Yeah. But when there's fear of the unknown, then you are projecting that fear onto others. And so I can certainly understand how that happens. I do love that your psychologist told you that you don't owe anyone anything. And I think that's valuable kind of like across the board with anything, but especially, as parents, because you want to protect your child, like that's your instinct, and you also want what's best for them. And so kind of feeling like you have these outside pressures can really make things unnecessarily stressful. So acknowledging that it's your right to share as you wish, when you wish, how you wish, or don't, can help. Like, okay, I don't owe anybody anything. But I also love that everybody was so receptive once you did share. So then that makes it easier. Like once you get a couple of them under your belt, and then you're like, oh wait, oh this isn't a big deal. Okay, cool, good.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so awesome. So we are wrapping up. So tell me what you would like the world to know about people with dwarfism. What kind of takeaway would you like people who may not have experience with anyone with dwarfism to take away?
Mm. So many things, really.
I promise it's not meant to be a trick question, but yeah,
I think that the main thing I would like people to know about people with dwarfism is that people with dwarfism, they are different, of course, because of their height, and there are other characteristics and symptoms related to their height and to that genetic condition. But none of those differences made people of dwarfism any less capable of thriving in life. People with dwarfism, yes, are shorter. That's a physical difference, but intellectually, they are as capable of people with average height. Um, Psychologically, they're also just as any other person. So that's something I would like people to understand. Not because people with dwarfism are, are shorter or have this or that characteristics, you should underestimate them. They are able to be successful professionally. They deserve, and they're to be respected and to be included in society, socially, economically. And people with dwarfism and any other disabilities deserve to be respected, to be treated with dignity, to be included. And it's not the my responsibility of a parent of a child with dwarfism or my son's responsibility in the future to educate others. All of us should be making our own effort to educate ourselves, to help build a community and a society that is more inclusive, that is kinder, and that is safer for everyone, where nobody feels scared and that all the time because you feel that someone is going to bully or do something to you because of the way you look or because of a disability you have. So that's something I would like people to always to be aware of and keep in mind.
I'll just keep it brief. I would just I would rephrase your question in my mind as, how do you want people to treat your son in the future? And I would say, judge him by his actions, judge him by his heart, judge him by what he does. Certainly not by his looks, and certainly not by his height. He's going to be a perfect normal person, and should be receiving the same respect and treatment as anybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I like to say that it's not our job to adapt everything to the world. It's the world's job to adapt to people, to humans, and not just people with dwarfism, but when you can have equality, equity, accommodations, and advocacy, then there's harmonious amongst everyone who has different abilities and disabilities and backgrounds and so on and so forth. So I love what you both said. I think that's wonderful. And if he was judged by his looks, it would do him favor, because that is one handsome young man.
Thank you.
So thank you both so much. Is there anything that you want to add or share before we close out?
No. The only way you could be heartbroken is if you wanted your son to be a quarterback or some sort of basketball player, I guess. I'm not a sports guy, so I couldn't possibly care less. I'll try to finish on a funny note. I guess that would be my contribution.
Even then, though, like, obviously not a quarterback, but I interviewed a young, I interviewed a guy, Andrew. He has dwarfism, and his family, they're all little people, and he was a manager, a football manager, and a basketball manager. So there's still areas in the sports world. There's two Harlem Globetrotters that have achondroplasia. So yeah.
Okay.
Good to know that. Yeah. No, I just wanted to add that we're very thankful for this opportunity of being a part of the book, and we're really looking forward to this book to be released and share our stories with everyone, and also read the stories of other parents of kids with dwarfism. It's going to be a wonderful resource for other parents out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. So thank you both for your time here and for, contributing your chapter. And we will put the information for Alaya in the comments, so that if anybody wants to know a little bit more about that, they can. It's really neat, and I highly encourage you to check it out. Thank you both so much. I really appreciate everything, and thank you all for watching. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and we will be happy to answer them. Typically most parents of children with dwarfism and people with dwarfism will be happy to answer questions. We'd much rather answer questions than have people ignorant and unknowing. So feel free to ask any reasonable questions in the comments, and we will answer them. Otherwise, we will see you next week. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.